Well, everyone, it's been a bit of a weird old season. Some big transfers in and out, another domestic treble, but we actually finally didn't win the league. And that is because with a squad admittedly blighted a little bit by injury, but also through the Nations League once again, we ended up throwing away a 5-point lead and losing by 1 point to Breither. And you might kind of be wondering what the hell happened. So we played Hafnarfjordur back to back with a day apart between games. We beat them 4-1 at home before losing 1-0 away. And then we had our first Champions League game, which we will, first Champions League phase game, which we will come on to in a bit, which we lost. But then we beat HK 5-3, then had a win against Odds 3-0, and then we lost to Hafnarfjordur in a game where really we should have done a lot better. We had plenty of chances to score. We just couldn't get the ball in the back of the net. Ariel Valdez, despite scoring, was guilty of wasting so many chances. And then this now is when the problems start. So in this game here against Breither, we are playing. Basically, when you don't have enough players and the game gives you players, we were playing grayed out players here, there. No, sorry, not Kim Bendixson, sorry. Helgeson, Halfdanison. We had so many grayed out players in the squad that we had to bring in, whereas Breither basically had a full strength team. Because we had so many players away and so many players injured. I think it was either this game or the next game where we only had 4 actual proper squad players. The rest were all game generated. But realistically, it was those 2 losses here which really cost us. And obviously, you can look at this game here, losing 1-0 to Hafnarfjordur. This game, losing 2-0 to Keflavik. It happens once a season. We find the keepers just turn into absolute beasts. I've never seen a 9.7 rating from a keeper before. Obviously, this also will have cost us massively, as they're throwing away a 2-0 lead away at Breither earlier on in the season. But we look for every silver lining, and this is the first season where the winners of the Championship group go straight through to the Champions League phase. So for this season, that is actually going to be Breither, which, while we wouldn't necessarily expect them to do much in the Champions League phase, the fact that they are going to get the money from that and hopefully the rep boost will really, really set them up for the next few seasons. Meanwhile, we'll go in at the league path second qualifying round. So we've got a good chance of, I would say, of hopefully navigating that into the Champions League. But at the worst, we'll end up back in the Conference League. But hopefully we'll actually, at the very least, get some Europa League football next season if we're unlucky with the draw. Meanwhile, Valor and HK go to the Europa League, and Hafnarfjordur once again go to the Conference League. And Valor have really turned into a good sort of consistent European team, and I'm hopeful that they will be the next team to go professional at some point, hopefully in the next couple of months now that the season's finished. Because that does bring us on to talk about their European campaign. For Valor, we might as well. So they navigated Cork City quite easily before beating Hapoel Beersheva 2-0 at home and then losing on penalties after Hapoel scored a 94th minute goal to level the tie. And then they ended up going out on pens, which was really, really unlucky. Meanwhile, as for Hafnarfjordur, they got past Riga before getting knocked out by Fortuna Sittard 3-2 on aggregate. And this actually would have, if they'd have managed to get through here, it would have seen them go through into the Europa Conference League. Now, HK went straight in at the Europa League playoff, knowing that basically they were guaranteed Conference League football. And they lost 3-2 on aggregate to Dynamo Kiev. But then they dropped down into the Conference League, and in their first game, they got a 0-0 draw at home to Twente, which I don't think is actually that bad, to be fair. And the other team competing was Breither, who got knocked out 3-1 by Lech Poznan in the Champions League, before then dropping down to play Twente, where they lost on penalties, and then they got past St. Johnston in the Europa Conference League fourth qualifying round, just about, and then they pulled off a massive result against Real Sociedad in their first game in the Conference League, winning 2-1 with 2 goals from our former player Sylvester Nygaard. So we're going to touch on transfers now because this brings us quite nicely onto it. Now, I'm just going to basically break down what we have done this season in terms of ins and outs. As you can see, quite a lot of ins, quite a lot of outs in terms of financials. And I'm just, because there's been quite a lot, I'm just kind of go through here just to show you what we've done, and I'll highlight the players that we actually are quite sort of excited about. So obviously we knew about Marcus Rodriguez-Vasquez. We brought him in essentially on loan from Arsenal after selling him for, 10.5 mil. And then I'm just going to highlight some of these quickly. So Per Ingvarsson and Alvaro Palomino are basically players that we signed for, as you can see, free. And Ingvarsson is actually out on loan at Akranis and has started to pick up a little bit in the last few weeks. Palomino, we've been able to get him out on loan, but we're going to keep trying. Patrick Wallen, in fact, I will just highlight him quickly, properly, is a player was on our radar for a good few years. He actually scored against us for his last club, Malmö, in one of the Champions League qualifying games, or it might have been a Europa League qualifying game. Yeah, when we looked at him years ago, he wasn't interested in joining because obviously our rep was so much lower. But then when his contract was expiring, we thought, you know what, we'll see if he wants to come. And he did, because we knew we were going to be losing Nygaard. We knew that eventually Rodriguez-Vasquez was going to go back to Arsenal. Because for those of you who don't remember, Nygaard was exploring his options at the end of his contract. So we knew we were either going to try and sell him or we were going to lose him for free. So we brought Wallen in, and he's had a really good first season with us. 10 goals in the league, 7 in the cup. That was actually a record. 7 goals in 3 games in the cup. So he broke the record there. He got 3 goals in the sort of pre-season cup, and he's also, he's not scored in Europe for us yet, actually, to be fair. But pretty solid first season from him. He's older, he's 29, so he's got a little bit of experience. As you can see, he likes big matches, he's consistent. So decent first season for him. And hopefully he can sort of continue to stick around and sort of bolster our attack a little bit. I'm not expecting multiple sort of 20 plus, 30 plus seasons from him. But he's just sort of quite reliable, someone who's a nice option to have to start or to play, fits the system quite nicely. Thomas Sora and Pereira were 2 youngsters who we basically brought in with the hope of trying to develop into homegrown players who we can get onto the loan farm. We now come on to probably our 2 biggest signings. So Milos Galic is a defender, not the quickest, but we had a bit of money. Monza, we could get him for 4 million. He's got some really good pros, nice driven personality. Again, a little bit older. He counts as European. It seemed a good option to bring in at defence, especially with, I think we were losing a couple. We were expecting to lose a couple. We were expecting to lose Ngoy. We sold Carrasco as well, who obviously we'll touch onto the outs in a bit. But he's been pretty good, pretty solid. Nothing stellar, but pretty reliable player to have. He's happy being a squad player, so he ticks a lot of boxes. Tushin Celik was a player we brought in for 4.9 mil release clause from Ankaragucu in Turkey. And he was someone who, when we signed, I think he was 21. And basically, we thought he's got a little bit of passing about him, which we're hoping to develop a bit more. And he's hopefully going to really sort of develop into a decent defender. We feel like he's a bit of a step up on some of the defenders we've had previously. So it's sort of really trying to take that step to really push the squad forward a little bit. So we had the money from the Rodriguez-Vasquez sale, so we decided he was worth the punt to invest in. Slobodan Jovic we brought in from Crvena Zvezda, basically looking to be a rotation option at the anchor. At the age of 19, he's developed quite nicely out on loan at Breither, and he may be someone who can come back to us and actually turn into our maybe starting anchor, depending on how well he develops. Mads Lawson was a player we were really happy to bring in. He is basically turned into our starting box-to-box midfield on the left-hand side. He's still not quite perfect at it yet, but he is getting there. And we're hoping with some more training and some more game time in that role, he will continue to develop. And he's been pretty solid. We just basically ended up just playing him because Abinho picked up a leg break basically at the start of the season. So he's missed the whole season and he is actually leaving Abinho. So basically it's probably worked out really, really well for Lawson because he's just been able to play all the time. Yadel Castillo, we touched on last time. He's been pretty solid for us. He's actually had a little bit of a star rating drop, but obviously we won't read too much into that. But he's had a pretty solid first season, chipped in with a good few assists. So hopefully he will continue to develop. He's still only 20, and we can turn him into a really good playmaker in midfield. So then we've got Marcus Malin, who's actually out on loan at HK. We brought him in kind of with the view to potentially being a player for us at right back, but also a good loan farm player, which he has turned out to be. Same with Oscar Aguirre. He's out on loan at HK as well. Abdoulaye Namdi, we signed him on a free with the intention of probably eventually sort of flipping him hopefully back to England to where he's homegrown. But he's come in and he's been a nice sort of rotation option at the anchor for us, with Peter Breyer picking up an injury towards the end of the season. Again, another break, this time a broken ankle. So yeah, we've had 2 leg breaks, 1 ankle break, and a hip injury to 4 of our key players this season, which has probably not really helped us when we were really struggling for squad players around the time of the Nations League. Then the problem is we can't postpone the Championship playoff games because it has to be boxed off by a certain date. Whereas when the World Cup was on, we could postpone like about 4 or 5 games. But then when the Nations League comes around in September, we've got no chance. And because quite a lot of our players are internationals now, it just absolutely screws us over. Again, Fabian Horvat is another loan farm player. He's out on loan at Akranis. Jason Ramirez is someone we brought in. Again, defensive option. He's played quite a few games for us. Nice, solid player. Decent on the ball. Really good marking. Yeah, we've been quite happy with him. Dusan Lekcic was a cheap signing we brought in from TSC. We managed to bring him in at the age of 17, so he shouldn't have any issues homegrown wise. And we're just trying to develop him and get him out onto the loan farm, basically. He's a number 10. If we can get him to work on his physicals a bit more, I think he could be a really useful player. Petr Mochichka, again, is purely a loan farm player. I'm trying to think if there's any other sort of loan farm players we brought in. Yeah, Giovanni Saro, we're hoping to be able to get him out onto the loan farm. He was a free signing. Facundo Lencina, I think, will eventually do a job for us, but would be nice to try and get him out onto the loan farm. Juan Padilla, he is out in the loan farm now. Thankfully, he's out on loan at Greta. And Andre Pesha is someone we want to get out onto the loan farm as well if we can. But yeah, I'm optimistic we might be able to do that coming forwards. Ivano Mele is someone who is just developing with us at the moment, and then we'll hopefully again be going out into the loan farm. I've skipped past a few players there because I want to show you them. So Mikkel Kim Bendiksen, we're going to try and get him his face soon, his non-FM horror face. We managed to bring him in at the age of 16 from Bodø. Bodø are churning out some absolute stars at the moment. And basically, he's someone we're training to be our next box-to-box midfielder. At the age he's at and with a driven personality, I'd like to think we could do that with him. He's played quite a lot towards the end of the season just because we've not had the players because of the internationals. So he's got quite a lot of game time towards the end, and hopefully he will continue to develop. I feel like he's got enough decent attributes at this age with his driven personality that we can turn him into someone decent. Andre Osorio, we managed to bring in on a free from Villarreal, a wing-back option, basically with decent crossing. So we'll touch on why we needed him and in a bit when we come on to the outs, but fairly decent start since he's joined. 4 assists, can't really complain. Keeping in theme with right-sided players, we've brought in Abdulaziz Al-Salami on a free after his contract expired at Al Hilal. So he is obviously more naturally a winger, but we have been playing him as a wing-back because we don't currently use wingers. We were very much in the air about whether to sign him, but when I feel justified when his value is already at 4.4 to 7 mil, basically we thought we'd sign him on a free and probably flip him back to Saudi in a couple of years. And a player's name you wouldn't have recognised, which we touched on before, was Ariel Valdez. So our striker Jorge Cardinale was playing in the French Youth Invitational. I think he won the top scorer or won the best player and came second in top scorer. It was one of them. But we scouted the other players who were in that list in the top 3, and one of them was Ariel Valdez, who we brought in from Arsenal de Sarandi out in Argentina for 4 million. At the age of 19, we're hoping that he is potentially going to be able to turn into a little bit of a goal machine for us, who we can then sell on for hopefully around about this amount of money. I don't think there's enough about him at this stage to really be a nailed-on starting striker for us for the whole sort of 10 years. And his potential has actually dropped from being 4.5 to 4, but potentially actually only 3. We're hoping that he will turn into a decent little goal machine with a view to selling him on in a couple of years' time for a good bit of money. Now, in terms of outs, we've touched on Piazza, Diarra-Suba, Rodriguez, Vasquez. We then managed to sell quite a few of the fringe players who've been out on loan to their respective clubs, like Federico Abregu and Nestoras Talik Manidis as well. Also went out to HK on a permanent deal. You can see some of the players we managed to get out on loan here. Jorge Cardinale going out on loan to Fram has been really good. He wasn't getting started at first. We had to have a word with their manager, and then as soon as he started playing him, he started delivering results for them. So, go figure. Bruno was someone we brought in, and he had been out on the loan farm a little bit, but his contract was running out and no one was coming in for him, so we sold him for 80k to Gremio, making a slight loss. Sylvester Nigel, we made a massive loss on him going out to Breither. He only had like 8 months left on his contract, but you know what? He's done well for them. Let's just see in terms of numbers. Can we see how well he's done? Yeah, 9 goals in the league, a couple of goals in the Conference League. Those goals against Sociedad, obviously, which got them the win. So for me, it was well worth it. He's getting him out there. It's been really, really good for them. He's delivered so far. Obviously, he did help get them the league because he did score against us in that Championship playoff game as well. So you know what? Fair play to them and fair play to him. It's kind of really worked out quite nicely. Like I said, we made a huge loss on him, but in the grand scheme of things, it's worked out quite well. Who else? Any substantial outs? Obviously, plenty of loans. We've got a new affiliate club in Volsungur. I'm not sure if they're actually getting promoted or not this season. They're in the 2nd division. Halkar are our affiliate club. They have actually just been promoted from the 2nd tier, so they will be playing in the same division as us next year. So it'll be interesting to see if we can keep them as an affiliate or not. Luis Carrasco, we said we'd sold. Struggling to fit him in, and he wasn't really playing that much. So, he was playing, but we were struggling with the registration rules, and he wasn't really developing anymore. And we thought, you know what, rather than give him a new contract, let's sell him. We now come on to some big outs. So Victor Sanabria, he had been wanting to leave for a while. We'd had quite a few bids that we'd had to reject for him. And then eventually Marseille came in and we managed to negotiate them to 5.5 mil. He was really pushing for the move. So we were like, you know what? I think we signed him for 1.1 mil. So yeah, 5 mil, decent profit. We were happy with that. AD Bezic, again, we touched on him. We knew we were going to struggle to keep him. We knew he was eventually going to want to leave. Which is partly why we signed Yadel Castillo. And Spurs came in, lowballing us to begin with, and then we managed to negotiate them up to, I think it was 5.5 mil up front. But then with add-ons, it's potentially going to rise up to 10 mil. And we do have percentage of profit, percentage of next sale on both Sanabria and Bezic. Lucas Schmidt, we touched on in the Iceland episode. So he came to us saying he wanted to leave. He wanted a new challenge. And you know what? We figured that's fine. You know what? You've given us a lot. You can go. We made a bit of a loss on him. He went to Ghent. But he's done pretty well, to be fair. Look at him, 7 goals and an assist in 9 games. So fair play to him. He gave us a lot. He was part of like a group of players who really sort of brought the club forward and elevated the club. And when he came to us wanting to make that move, we didn't really feel like we wanted to stand in his way. We had players coming through, and his game time had sort of dropped over the last few seasons. So it made sense. We were very, very sort of sad in some ways to see him go, but it felt like the right time. Yeah, as you can see, his game time sort of really started to dip towards the end, a lot of sub appearances. But yeah, massive respect to him and what he brought for the club. Hugo Neyer was, I'm just going to touch on him because it was actually just a really surprising bit of business. He didn't have much time left on this deal. He'd barely played any sort of professional games for us. He'd made, 5 appearances there, and that was because we had an injury to Shiapara. His contract was running out, and we managed to make a profit on him, selling him to Malaga, where he's not done a huge amount so far. But it seemed too good to turn down. And then same with Ahmed Matuk. So he'd been out on loan at Michelin last season, and then they didn't activate his buy clause of 250k. So when he came back, we offered him out again, and we somehow managed to make a profit on him, selling him to Dortmund, where he's actually played a few times. But yeah, I did not expect to be able to do that with him. Again, he was another one of the Schmidt sort of players who formed that core. Him, Schmidt and Lerver really helped sort of drive the club forward. And then to get a profit on him when we'd sort of really moved away from him, I was well happy with. Snorri Svensson, he wasn't really playing much, and he was moaning about game time. So we offered him out, and Parma came in, so he's gone back to Italy. And then Mahir Shireen, was someone we'd signed. Our scouts found him when we were doing like youth team scouting, and we brought him in when he was like 17, and he's been out on loan in Turkey. His contract was running out in about a year, and he was demanding that we pick him for the Champions League, and it was like, no, you're not good enough, and he wasn't happy. So we just offered him out, and we managed to make a profit on him. We sold him to Alanyaspor in the first tier of Turkish football. So yeah, to get a profit on him, we were very, very happy with. And that concludes the long overview of the transfers, and we're just going to touch on us for a little bit again in terms of results. So before we do that, if you want to do us a massive favor and drop a like down below. So we drew Shamrock. We knew that we were guaranteed Europa League. We went in at the Champions League path playoff. And we beat Shamrock 2-0 at home quite comfortably. Goal from Daniel Mbala and Alan Schwarz. Before youngster Aaron Jørgensen won us the game away from home 1-0 in Ireland. And then our first game, as we said, we faced off against familiar opposition from last season in Monaco, going away and losing, unfortunately, 2-0. As you can see, though, we certainly gave a decent account of ourselves. 12 shots to their 10. Struggling a little bit on the possession, but it was the penalty, really, which really finished the game off, to be fair. And then Alan Schwarz picking up that 2-month hip injury, which unfortunately shafted us a little bit going forward. But then we welcomed Odds of Norway to Iceland, and we managed to get a comfortable win, 3-0. Comfortable in the end. It took us to the second half before we put the 3 goals away. But really, we should have been in the lead in the first half. We were all over them, and it was a shock, to be honest with you, that it took us that long. And once we scored, it really opened the floodgates. In terms of the Iceland national team, there's not a huge amount to report. We've really taken a bit of a back foot approach with the national team in the Nations League. Obviously, you had so much going on in the league, and a lot of these games actually fell on league game days as well. So we didn't actually play any of them. We just sort of instant resulted them and left them to the assistant. Didn't do that great in a group where really we should be doing a lot better. There's still obviously, 2 games to go, but we find ourselves in third, unlikely really to get out of this unless we can somehow beat Montenegro. But the main thing really is just not getting relegated. I am still thinking of packing it in, though, because the clashes on league game days are really frustrating. Really sort of annoying. And to be fair, I feel like we've potentially taken them maybe as far as we can go for now, and I'd rather just be able to focus solely on Thor for a bit, really. And it has been a decent season for the Lonies in the end, with Cardinale getting Rookie of the Year, Paul Hall winning top goal scorer for Starnen, and Stojszewski winning the Golden Glove for Valor. Oh, and also our youngster Lorenzo Rinaldi, out on loan at Halka, won the First Division Young Player of the Year, and he is actually developing into an absolute machine. He looks like he's going to be incredible going forward. Youth intake, pretty shocking once again. Not a huge amount to talk about, really. This guy, we don't play with wingers. We may be able to turn him into a semi-useful number 10, but I'm not really expecting much from any of them. So today's game is against Young Boys, who actually beat us this time last season in the Champions League as well. So we'll certainly be looking to get some revenge against them. They play a 4-4-2 diamond, exactly the same as us. And it was basically 2 set-piece goals last time, which beat us. So obviously we're going to be looking to avoid that this season. So I just need to sort the team out because it's all a bit over the place with the end of season. We are unfortunately without Mbala today. He's away on international duty. Let me just make sure. Are we happy with everyone who's in this team? So as you can see, Schwarz, Castro, Breyer, Abinho. Abinho is now back from injury, but he is leaving. Sorry, we didn't touch on him. He's joining Atletico Mineiro for, I think, something like 475,000 or something like that. And we signed him for free. He's been a brilliant servant to the club. We can't really complain at all. He's been absolutely fantastic for us. So, for the team today to try and get a result against Young Boys, how are we going to do this? I think we're going to go with Wallin, obviously, for Saro. Saro's, a low farm player. He's not even someone we're sort of expecting to play. Tushin, Ramirez, and where's Rakic? We just put him in somewhere. Rakic in at wing back. And I might actually go with, he's not as good defensively, but Al Salami is definitely better going forward. So yeah, the other reason that we needed to sign 2 right backs is because Mashuka is leaving on a free in December. So basically, clubs bid for him. He wanted to leave, and he accepted the fact that we would only sell him if a club bid something like 900k for him. And it was coming to the end of the transfer window, the end of the deadline for the promise, and no club had bid that for him. So I'm thinking, great, I'll offer him a new deal as soon as this is out. And time down. Literally 2 days before, 2 clubs bid for him for a free signing at the end of his contract, and he accepted. I was so frustrated, so annoyed to end up losing him to that. But what can you do? It happens. I think we're happy with this. Al Salami, Tushin, Ramirez, Rakic, Namdi because Bray is injured. Excuse me, Castillo at Lawson, Besic in there, and Barlow, as we said, is away. Wallin and Rodriguez Vasquez with Ariel Valdez on the bench and plenty of decent options to bring on. Now, obviously, it goes without saying, 2 wins from 3 would be absolutely fantastic. So if we can get that done here in Switzerland, be incredible, absolutely incredible. Let me just make sure that everyone is being watched, marked, what have you. How's this guy's first touch average? Okay. This should all settle down in a minute, everyone. Sorry. There we go. But we're still like our transfer budget this season that we got at the end of the regular season for the championship group, 4,500,000 a week in wages. Like most of our wages, I think, is just on some of our loan farm players. To be fair, we got 46 players out on loan, but the transfers and stuff, we just really need to be better financially, and trying to get consistent Champions League football is the only way we're going to do that. And hopefully we're getting to a point where that is going to be more achievable. I know obviously we're not going to be going in at the league phase next year. We're going to have a little bit of work to do. But the season after that, I feel like I can't remember because we're up into 10th now and those changes don't come into effect until next season. So I can't remember exactly how it's going to work for us next season, but actually as it stands so far this season in the Champions League, we're actually looking like we could be in with a chance of going up to 8th. It gets a little bit confusing. Lovely. Ooh, nearly. It gets a little bit confusing, I find, because our season starts before the cut-off for the Champions League coefficients. So our season basically runs with the season before's coefficient rules, and it's 1-0. And it's Al Salami justifying his inclusion with a fantastic assist, and Rodriguez Vasquez in what's probably going to be one of his last games for the club before his loan deal expires, and he goes back to Arsenal. But yeah, he gets the goal, and it's a lovely assist. Lays it on a plate, 1-0 up inside 20 minutes, and they've not had a sniff yet. So let's keep going with this. Now, last time it was set pieces that did us when we played Young Boys. So hopefully the defensive reinforcements we've made with Tuchin and Ramirez will be able to marshal that defense a bit better. Hits the post, way away by Namdi. And we've actually in with a chance of a counter here if Rodriguez Vasquez can carry it well. No, he loses the ball. So far, so good. Let's just get it into half time. Still in the lead, please, guys. It's fine. We can push them back. That was fortunate because that was a good little move. Rakic should not have let Diaz getting behind him like that. But yeah, Al Salami does actually have a release clause of 4.4 mil, which we had to give him. But I'm hopeful we'll be able to negotiate that out in a few months. And then we can just... And it's Patrick Wallin. It's 2-0. A lovely assist from Castillo. Again, down that right-hand side. Fantastic. Just what we like. Just on the stroke of half-time, we double our lead. But yeah, like I said, I was kind of a little bit reluctant to sign him in some ways. But then I thought, no, we should be able to flip him back to Saudi in a few years. for decent money. So yeah, to bring him in for free, and he's already chipping in with quite a few assists, so well worth the outlay. I say outlay, like I said, he cost us nothing. Second half, more of the same, please. Yeah, more of the same would be wonderful. We've actually got a relatively, I would say, favourable draw for the Champions League to get through. We've got like Porto, Freiburg, and I feel like there was someone else who I sort of really fancied us to get something against. Obviously, odds, we've already done that. If we can get something here today, that'll be fantastic. But Porto, I feel like we played them before and been unlucky. We may have beaten them at one point as well. Freiburg, I know for a fact we beat them about 5 years ago, 2-1. So I'm hopeful we can do the same. But yeah, if obviously we can get this win, and I think if we can then just pick up one more win, that will guarantee us going through. So hopefully then we push on from that, and we end up hopefully top 8. I think might be difficult still. I still don't think we're at a point where we should really be able to get top 8. I don't know if we're good enough for that yet, or big enough, which sounds a bit stupid, but you know, and a bit defeatist. But I just generally don't. That looks like it's going to be a penalty. I just don't think we've got enough behind us financially and infrastructure-wise and everything to sort of really compete to get a top 8 finish yet. Maybe I don't know if we're good enough compared to some of the other teams who'll be competing for that. And it's 3-0, and it's going to be Wallen taking the penalty. Well, I'll say it's going to be 3-0, hopefully, if Wallen scores the penalty. But yeah, I just don't know if we're going to be good enough to get top 8. And he does. Manifested it there, didn't I? But if we can certainly get into the top sort of tier of the playoffs, hopefully we'll get a favourable draw, and we won't draw someone like a Man City like we did last year. And with it being 3-0, I'm probably going to make some changes because we've got a few tired players here. So I'm actually going to bring on Aaron Jensen, because why not, wherever he is, for Bezic. I'm going to bring on Galich for Namdi and put Tuchin in the anchor for now. We're going to throw Valdez on later, not now. We'll leave him, but we will bring him on later. We'll leave it at that, actually, for the time being. I don't know why Tuchin's... It says he can play DM. I would have thought an anchor would have suited him, with him being a defender. But apparently he's only half a star. That's fine, we'll take that. Let me just make sure. See, Galich doesn't need to worry about using off tackles. It's just, come on, he's not on the yellow card. But Tuchin just needs to stay smart in that anchor role. Not do anything stupid. Go on, Aaron. He hits the underside of the bar. Unlucky, lad. But yeah, we're hoping to get him out on loan. He's developing okay at the age of 17. But yeah, I'm hoping we can get him out on loan somewhere next season, and he can hopefully really kick on, get some consistent game time. I'd like him to actually go to Hawker. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, really. I've been pronouncing it Halkar. But I'm hoping we can get him out on loan there, having just been promoted. And he should be able to get some consistent game time for them. Rakic is going to come off for Hector Barrios, and we're going to bring on Lerva for Tuchin now, and we're going to drop Castillo back into the anchor, I think, or maybe Lawson. Yeah, that sort of suits better. And then we are going to bring on Ariel Valdez now for Rodriguez Vasquez, and that is all our changes done. Just see it out, 3-0, job done. Also losing to Casapia. We like that. We played Casapia before and we've beaten them, so Porto can lose to them. Hopefully it means we might be able to compete with Porto. And this is going to hopefully be a nice sort of comfy 3-0 in the end. Nearly a nice comfy 4-0. Never mind. Never mind. I bet we keep knocking for a fourth, but yeah, we'll take the 3. We'll take the 3 all day. What a result. Literally, we played these this time last year and we lost 2-0. So what a turnaround to get that, to get a 3-0. Quite comfortably in the end as well. Job done. Now, as it stands with 3 games played, admittedly other teams are yet to play. They'll be playing tomorrow. We're actually up into 5th. So I forgot we actually also have Casapia. So we've got Porto, Freiburg and Casapia before the year's out. And then we've got Milan and Bayern Munich. Now, obviously, we actually beat Milan last year. So who knows? Maybe I think if we can somehow get 3 wins from these 3 games, maybe we would have a chance of getting top 8. And what a week it is turning into for the Icelandic teams, with HK going to Hapoel Beersheva and winning 3-0, with on-loan players Melin and Bednar both getting goals. Meanwhile, Breitho went to Twente and also won. Meaning the Conference League table currently looks like this. After 2 games, Breitho and HK are sat in 7th and 8th. And as you can see, we're currently now on a 5.1 season, meaning that we would really be replacing this 6-point season with hopefully a double figure. With us sitting in 9th, we're now going to go away and prepare for that run of 3 games against Porto, Freiburg and Casapia, and hopefully get 9 points on the board and see us safely through into the top half of the playoffs as a minimum. But who knows, if we can win all 3 of them and if results go our way, you may find us when we come back around about the time of the Milan and Bayern Munich games. I'm not sure whether we'll do both or just one, but you may find us sitting in a top 8 place. Obviously, by that point, we'll know what's happened with HK and Breitho because the Conference League will be finished by that point. But it certainly looks like Breitho are definitely going to be progressing. They only need probably 1 or 2 more points to get through, with HK hopefully just a win or 2 away from guaranteeing their spot through as well. So, good hunting tonight, I would say, or today, depending on what time it is you're watching it. And I will see you all in the next one, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, like I said, do drop a like down below. If you're not subscribed already, do subscribe, because if you're here on episode 50 or whatever it is and you're not subscribed, you might as well. I'm hoping that things are really going to start heating up now, now that we're in a position where we're going to have teams consistently getting into this sort of like later stages of the European competitions. Well, by that I mean later stages for us, therefore the league phase. Hopefully now that we're getting there, we'll start getting some consistent games going forward, and hopefully we're not too far off from another team getting towards sort of the far reaches of a competition, quarterfinals, semi-finals. Obviously the other year we got knocked out by Spurs in the quarterfinals of the semi-final of the Europa League, so hopefully it won't be that long until some other teams are joining us there. So take care everyone, thank you so much for watching, bye for now.